Hey guys, and welcome back to the 1v1. I am your host Vlhadus, and today I have a very special guest with me. I have a YouTuber who recently started making Ashes of Creation content. This was also someone who was on the fence initially about the project and about just the whole development side of things. Now he's singing a different tune, but we'll let him go over that. I want to introduce a human artifact. How's it going, man?
Okay, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a very busy Monday. work
Oh
was
yeah.
work was so crazy today. Oh my god, I wanted to get out so bad at 5. How was yours?
It's okay until I took the car to the tank to fill it up. Now my wallet's empty.
Isn't everybody in America when they go to the gas pump right now?
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. Um
Thank goodness Ashes of Creation doesn't have any gas pumps in it.
right. So
Steven, you could leave that out of the game.
yeah, we don't need that sense of realism, but I mean he is gonna have taxes, so I mean we'll have to see the realism side of it when it comes to that system. But
No
so
gas taxes.
yeah, no gas taxes. So usually like how I always ask my guests in the beginning, right, is um like what's your gaming history? Like, you started your YouTube channel, was it for another game initially at first, or
My YouTube channel has been all over the place.
okay.
I just kind of throw crap at the wall and hope something sticks. But it
Okay.
started as an Overwatch channel,
Okay.
which I'm glad that didn't work out because I don't like the state of Overwatch. And then it
Mhm.
kind of turned into a Let's Play channel, the Tomb Raider and Tales of Berseria. It's not finished. And then Final Fantasy started to stick a little bit. And then I complained about Ashes of Creation, and that got views in the triple digits. I'm like, oh, I think I got something going. And then I said, Riot's MMO is going to step on Ashes. And then I saw the character creation. I'm like, maybe Ashes won't be stepped on. And I made that apology video that went um semi viral.
Right. Well, I mean, and here's my thing, and I've talked to many people um about the whole Riot MMO, and it's really hard to say if the Riot MMO is going to step on Ashes, right? It really just depends on their features, but let's just be honest here. If they're creating a MMO in the League universe, there are over 100 and I believe 125 million people that log into League every month. If you
Yeah,
were to even get 10, hell, 5% of that player base, you are literally going to have the biggest MMO ever. So
right.
it's not hyperbole to say that the Riot MMO is going to step on Ashes, because literally the Riot MMO is going to step on every MMO. It's going to step on Final Fantasy 14. It's going to step on Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, because it's going to be a juggernaut. Now, they could offer some features that could be very unappealing to the mass audience. I just don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to make, not saying they're going to make a WoW clone. I'm sure there are going to be things about this MMO that Riot's doing that is, because I believe Greg Street, who used to be the lead game designer from World of Warcraft, is the lead game designer of this untitled MMO project for Riot. He said that this game isn't going to be for everybody. That's a
Right.
that's a pretty big statement to say, because when someone says that, that means that we're going to have features that the general audience is not going to like. So I don't know if that means more PvP oriented kind of MMO similar to League of Legends, or what it's really going to have. I mean, we just have to wait and see, because right now we frankly don't know anything. So we're
Yeah.
just kind of speculating here. But if I can speculate on the main thing, which is the population of League, even if those players just tried it for a month, it'll literally be the biggest starting MMO ever of all time. So
I feel like sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like Riot is like the new Blizzard. You know how Blizzard was like 20 years ago where they never had a failure?
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's right now because they did the card game that took off. They did Valorant that was on top 10 of Switch, even knocked down Fortnite for a day.
Oh yeah.
And then I feel like Riot is just always knocking things out of the park.
Right. I mean, right now is literally in a so not only are they knocking stuff out of the park, but they have a very loyal player base. And that speaks volumes because right now there isn't a lot of AAA studios that have a loyal player base. I mean, WoW's player base, I guess you can say the current people that are playing are loyal, right? Because they're still playing even after everything that's happened. Uh,
Right.
you have Final Fantasy, who I think is probably a pretty good loyal player base. But I honestly I feel like every game has a loyal player base. Now, who is probably the largest majority of that loyal player base? Probably I would say Final Fantasy 14 right now. I think they are, in my opinion, the biggest MMO out right now. Um, but just to kind of
It's
take it back real quick, because you said that you made your YouTube channel for Overwatch initially. You started just trying to do different things, and you started to um you critique Ashes of Creation, and that kind of got views. So what about Ashes of Creation initially didn't appease to you, or didn't jive with you, in let's say?
another it felt like another crowdfunded full of promises like ukulele was. I feel like all those crowd-funded things, and not
Okay.
just even crowd-funded, it's AAA, like Cyberpunk.
Right.
I hate to use the word cyberpunk, but like Ashes is promising this, Ashes is promising that, and they're in development for like years and years and years, and this game's gonna come out and literally cyberpunk us. And then I changed my mind when I saw that character creation. I'm like, maybe they actually are putting heart into this.
Well, so I can definitely understand that. And here's the thing too. I feel that the people even at Cyberpunk are putting passion into their games. Whenever you have bosses that have deadlines and you have to push out crap knowing that it needs more time. It's the same thing that people at let's say New World. I believe that the developers for New World are passionate. Like they want to make a good game. But
Yeah,
whenever you have deadlines and you have shareholders and you have, fiscal responsibilities to be met, that's when gaming and the players and good gaming content do not align. And again, I feel like the reason why Steven wants to keep his company private and not have shareholders, not have people to answer to, isn't because he doesn't want Intrepid to grow, but he also understands that games that need content, especially MMOs, require time, like patience, dedication, craft, depth, and
and a clear
sometimes,
vision.
yeah, and sometimes, as much as we would love a good cadence, right? Like a 3 month cadence, a 5 month cadence of continuous content, sometimes you need to wait a little bit longer. You know what I mean? And if you need to wait a little bit longer to have something truly special, I would personally rather wait longer. But again, we've been kind of conditioned. I would say I've been conditioned playing World of Warcraft for almost 15 years of being fed shit patches and thinking this is legit content. Like, oh, I got a whole new raid to do. I got a zone to do. I got these new quests to do. And I'm done within a week. Like there's nothing more for me to do really. And then now they've just time gated all of the things for us to do to kind of stretch out the same amount of content that we did in a week before, but now it takes a couple of months maybe because you have to go back because they're purposefully time getting you to like elongate the whole patch process. And I know with Steven and Intrepid, I've always seen this passion come from them. My fear, and I don't know if this was something from yours, was he wasn't going to have the right talent to pull this off. You can have all of the money in the world, but if you don't have the right talent, like it's just not going to happen. Like Steven is not a gaming person. Well, I would say he's not a developer. He is a gamer, but being a lead game designer is a huge responsibility, and I'm sure he's learning a lot. So to ask you another question, like how many live streams have you seen from Intrepid? I don't know if you've gone back and watched like old live streams now that you're kind of like a little bit on the fence, or not on the fence, but like in the more like optimistic side of Ashes. But have you
I've
seen the
watched.
difference from Intrepid comparatively to, let's say, Blizzard or Bethesda, or just other AAA studios?
Yeah, I've watched the last two because I do like the dev updates in a nutshell, where I just kind of sum up those 2 hours into 11 minutes,
Right, right, right.
and they definitely feel less corporate. Blizzard seems like they're reading from a script. They have their
Yeah.
check marks that they're like, yeah, I did this, I appeased this, yep, yep, and everyone's happy. Yep, this is my check mark, this is my notepad, copy paste. And then Steven and I forgot her name. Is it Margaret?
Yep.
They just they just feel more natural when they talk about their game. Steven's like a little child working on a elementary project. He's like, "Look, this is so exciting." And I kind of like that about them.
Yeah, I think that's the big draw for a lot of people, including myself. Is just it's super hard to fake genuineness when you're being genuine. And honestly, that was why I kind of watched your video. I didn't know what you were apologizing for initially, because I didn't see the previous video of what you critiqued from Ashes. But when I heard your voice and I saw like when you said I'm sorry, like you were genuine. Like you legit were like, I kind of shouldn't have said that, even though I feel like what you probably said, and I still probably got to go back and watch that video, that Riot is going to be a juggernaut. People do need to
Yeah.
understand that. But you know what I mean? I don't know what your place of malice was maybe in for Ashes at that time. Because again, like you have projects that try to start up like Chronicles of Illyria, other MMO projects than Ashes of Creation, and then around the 2015, 2016, 2017 timeframe that just weren't going anywhere. And then you have the major culprit, right? That everybody knows, the major Kickstarter project, which is Star Citizen. It's been in
Right.
development for over what,
Yeah.
11 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but the big difference that I've seen, like if big people comparing Star Citizen, is that Star Citizen has so much scope creep, meaning that while they're developing, they thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we added this new feature that we never promised them before? Yeah, let's do that too. That's basically what they were doing. And that causes the process to be elongated more and longer and longer and longer. Steven and Intrepid have never, the entire time that they finished the Kickstarter, have added a new system since the beginning. They have been working on entirely what was promised, and that's it. And again, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people don't know how long it takes to make an MMO. People have saying like, why is this taking so long? Yada, yada, yada. Just to give you context, Star Wars The Old Republic took 7 years to make. And
Yeah.
Star Wars The Old Republic had a lot of problems in the launch of that game. I don't know if anyone knows, but I mean, it wasn't a pretty launch. You have Final Fantasy 14 before A Realm Reborn. That was, I think, another 7 years. But if you add the relaunch, which is 2.0, that was another 2.5. So it was about 9.5 years to reconstruct that game. You have World of Warcraft, which took about 5 years. So you have Ashes of Creation, which is probably the most ambitious MMO. And I know Steven has said this multiple times. The most ambitious MMO of all time. And we've had WoW clones, right? That don't
Yeah.
really have anything new. And those take 5 to 7 years to make. Realistically, this MMO could take 8, 9 years. You know what I mean? And so I'm not really worried about that because I believe once Alpha 2 comes out and we can actually get in and start testing, I think people will be more at ease. I think the tension is quite high right now because we don't know when Alpha 2 is. And I think that lack of speculation or that lack of time frame just scares people because they wonder, well, how long are we going to go without an Alpha 2? Like that's why people are chomping at the bit to see combat. Now, I know they just released some things recently from Steven saying that they were going to do a little bit of combat update in this June live stream. What do you think about that? Or are you excited to see what combat they're going to show?
Yeah. I hope it's like pseudo Guild Wars with Black Desert. Not full on Black Desert, but not full on tab targeting either.
Mm-hmm. Well, so,
Like Neverwinter,
okay. So
where you get to aim.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Where you get to aim your abilities and skill shots are important in things.
Right. I just wanted to ask you a quick question real quick. So what is your MMO repertoire? Like, what are all the MMOs you've played since you've been a gamer?
So I actually started. It's not an actual MMO, but I actually started with Destiny, and Destiny has the raids. I'm like,
Right.
okay, I love raiding. What other games have raiding?
Right.
And Google told me this is MMO genre you want to get into.
Oh yeah.
And then Terra was my first official MMO, actually.
Terra,
And
I've never played that one. I've heard a lot about it. I've heard people talk about the combat in that game being pretty good. I've never played it. I really can't speak to that game. But keep going. Keep going.
uh, I loved it. It was just over the top
Was it
anime waifu action.
was it
It's
tab
kind of dumb.
action? What kind of system was it?
It was full on action.
Mm-hmm.
It was no tabs, nothing. Almost like Black Desert, just from
Right.
a view of Warcraft, almost.
Okay.
And then in 2020, when my life completely fell apart on top of a pandemic, so I couldn't go outside, I couldn't go to the gym or anything, and that's when I picked up Final Fantasy because I was already paying for the subscription and I needed something to do. So I'm like, well, Final Fantasy.
So your first forte into Final Fantasy was in 2020?
Yeah, I picked it up in 2019, but A Realm Reborn completely bored the crap out of me. And then, yeah, 2020 happened. I'm like, I need something to do, and I'm paying for this subscription.
Right.
And once I got past The Realm Reborn to Heaven's Ward, is when I fell in love with it.
See, I guess I had an opposite experience compared to a lot of people. I loved A Realm Reborn. I really did. I mean, playing World of Warcraft, the most dullest questing experience you can probably experience in an MMO, at least in my opinion. I mean, I think the classic version of the game and questing and getting these story bits and stuff like that, it was an older time. It was a different time. I completely understand that. Personally, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I believe Warlords of Draenor had probably the best newer questing experience that Blizzard's ever done, and has yet to really replicate it, in my opinion. But
That is my biggest. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
That is my biggest gaming regret is that I didn't play WoW in its prime. I've always had my eyes on it, but when you're a teenager, you're like, I can't really afford a sub because I
Right.
have school, and my mom's not going to pay $15 a month for a video game. So,
No,
I'm like,
yeah, no, I completely understand that one. I mean, I started playing WoW in 2006, so it was literally like right when I graduated high school. I was going off on my own. Had my own job at that time, so yeah, like I can totally relate. Um, but so playing all these different MMOs, and you actually playing Final Fantasy, I would say quite often now.
800 hours.
And did you just a quick aside? Did you finish Shadowbringers? Have you finished?
Did.
Okay, did you
Yeah,
finish Endwalker?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
don't spoil that. I have not finished Endwalker,
Oh, okay.
but Shadowbringers, I will say this on record, I cried multiple times. Shadowbringers. So I love Final Fantasy. I play Final Fantasy 7. I play Final Fantasy 8. I play Final Fantasy 10, 10 2, Final Fantasy 11. I did
You
not
want a
play.
real hot take? Mine was 13, and I loved Final Fantasy 13.
Really, that was
People hate
y-
Lightning for the same reasons they love Cloud. I'll
right.
say that on the internet and get crucified, but I love Lightning.
Hey, I've never played Final Fantasy 13, and here's why. Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 was probably the end of the turn-based genre for Square Enix. After when they made 11, which was the first iteration of the MMO, they did Final Fantasy 12. And Final Fantasy 12 was the more, it was just different. It wasn't turn-based after that. I forgot what kind of system they called it, but it was just different. And me
Was
being,
12 the one with the Playboy bunny girl?
I
Or was
don't
that
know. I
8?
I know. So 8 was Squall. Um 9 was like the little boy. I never played 9. I should. I've heard a lot of people tell me to play 9, and I probably should go and download it from Steam and play it.
Yeah, 9 is the one with the bunny, the
Probably.
Fiera. Yeah.
Probably. But either way, I just didn't like what I saw from the new combat system after 10. So I just never really got interested in it. But playing Final Fantasy, especially Endwalker, that story experience was at another level. It was
Yeah.
literally like watching a movie and your character was the main character. The voice acting, the story, the villain, everything was just so damn good. I don't know where Steven is at when it comes to the story for Ashes of Creation, but golly, if he can have a bar to have set, I would set my bar at Final Fantasy. I don't know how Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls, or any other MMO plays out because I was a one game Andy. I played World of Warcraft for 15 years. I basically played Final Fantasy. I think Final Fantasy is probably the only MMO that I truly dived into. I never really dove into Elder Scrolls, Guild Wars 2. Actually, Star Wars was probably the third because I did do everything up to level 50 in Star Wars. I just never finished it. So that was probably the third most MMO I've ever played. Um,
I started Star Wars. I was gonna do a video on it, and I lost interest or something. I don't remember. I
it's
I started as a Sith Lord, and then I'm like, I don't really like this, so I went to a bounty hunter, and I had a lot more fun. I think
right.
life came up.
Possibly. It's not a bad game, honestly. Like, I think for me, it was kind of like the cartoony graphics, the combat to me, it was fine. It was serviceable combat, but it just didn't have the level of customization that I wanted from characters. And honestly, like, I'm not a Star Wars guy. I am
Yeah,
not
I
a,
think
or go ahead.
you're a Star Wars person, it's great
Oh, for
because it's like
sure.
Crotar and all those other things.
For
But if you're
sure.
just I want a space MMO, then you know, do something else.
Yeah, and I just at the end of the day, like I like Star Wars a lot, and honestly, the story in that game is really freaking good. I'm not gonna lie, it is really, really, really good. But actually, I'll say this, and this may be a hot take, that the older public storyline is better than episode 1, 2, and 3, 7, 8, and 9. Like, it's just better. It's
I like the
superior.
prequels more than the internet does.
Oh
I grew up in that era.
no, I know.
I
Yeah,
don't like Disney Star Wars.
yeah. No, for me, it just was way too campy. It didn't feel, um, like I don't know.
Not a Jar Jar Binks guy.
Actually, Jar Jar really didn't bother me. I mean, even in
Oh,
episode two was the worst story ever. Like it was just so bad, and the acting was so bad. It was so unbelievable. Like
yeah.
the story they were trying to tell and how Anakin, like if you're gonna have a backstory for Vader, this is what you wanted to do, George Lucas. I know we're getting way off on this
Right.
tangent of Star Wars, but it has to be said, man. George Lucas, I just don't agree with why or the story he wanted to have as canon for Vader's backstory as Anakin Skywalker. I can't get behind it. I think it's just really bad and just uninteresting. And I would rather prefer that he was just always Vader. He was a little baby Vader and grew up to be an adult Vader. Like that's kind of how I do it in my mind.
He
Um,
was just born on dark helmet. The
yeah,
helmet just grew
basically,
out into a body.
yeah, no, for sure. That's how I do it in my mind. But so going back to Ashes real quick. Um,
Yeah,
so you were on the fence and you said some stuff about the right MMO. We got that all established. But was it just seeing the character creator that brought you into the game? Like,
that was mostly it. And then I did some research and
mhm.
found out it's not actually crowdfunded. It was his own money. I'm like, oh well, maybe I was kind of a jerk and all
Well,
that other stuff.
I mean, he put in almost, I believe, $40 million. Someone can quote me in the comment section, but I want to say that that was him and his husband's contribution to this game and this company. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of seed money.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
lot.
and so the whole crowdfunding was to really see if this is something that people would want. Is this something that people can get behind? Because again, he has a very specific vision for an MMO. It's not generic. I'll say that much. I have never seen a religion system inside an MMO. I've never seen a what was it? He actually wants like a stock market inside Ashes of Creation. I mean, and then there's going to be taxation. There's going to be mayors. There's going to be castles. Like, I think the one thing that really appealed to me when I first saw the Lazy Peon video was it felt like Game of Thrones. Like, and
Yeah,
this was when Game of Thrones was like at its height, right? Like, I mean, even all the bad stuff that people can say about the last season, and believe me, like, I didn't really care for the final season, but man, the journey from season one to that disappointing season was remarkable. And I, again, like, it's not George R. R. Martin's fault. I mean, it was the Davey Wise and whoever Benioff, I think, was the other producer for the HBO. But when I heard Ashes, it really got me to thinking of just Game of Thrones. And then the more I heard about the PvP side, I was like, dude, this is legit Game of Thrones. Just because there's like betrayal, there's like backstabbing, there's like the fact that you can literally be flagged against anybody, even your own guild members. That's insane. Like that's really crazy in my opinion. And
yeah. I
it's
do have
or go ahead.
one concern. Well, I have a few concerns.
Let's hear 'em.
And my
Let's hear 'em.
channel is built off the hot takes because I have a lot of hot takes on my channel.
All right,
But
let's hear 'em.
one is I'm afraid that once the community is set, like the mayors and the caravans and everything gets going,
Right?
it will kind of stunt the growth because it'll be hard for a new player to get into this game past the year honeymoon because the communities will be set. I feel like a new player trying to get in will be kind of lost in the shuffle because the world is already set in stone, if that makes sense.
I,
So I'm kind of concerned about that.
I'm gonna disagree. I think with new people, I think because of those pre-established communities, it's going to be like as a new player, you're gonna go into the server, whatever server you go on, and you're gonna have all of these guilds at your disposal to want to jump into. You're gonna have like big guilds, small guilds, very niche guilds that are pirate based. You're gonna have guilds that are just all about hijacking caravans. You're gonna have guilds that are all about killing world bosses. You're gonna have guilds that are all about role play. You're gonna have guilds that are all about you know, rogue stuff, you know, or all ranger guilds. You're gonna have all of these different kinds of guilds and organizations. I mean, hell, there was the Flat Vera Society. There's literally a guild that is going to be like saying that Vera's flat, you know, kind of like the Flat Earth Society. And I've been really getting into role play, not into like WoW or any other role play, but I'm getting into role play when it comes to Ashes because I've never been a role player. But after talking to Anduin on one of my 1v1s, I actually might do a little bit of role play because I've never done it. And role players always seem to have so much fun. And
Yeah.
and I think ultimately, like Ashes is going to have a lot of tools for role players to use. But to go back to your original question, I do find, you know, if you want to be a mayor, right? You don't know anybody, you want to go to Ashes Creation, you're like, wow, people can be a mayor. I want to be a mayor. Well, depending on what mayor you want to be, if you want to be the, I believe the scientific mayor, you'll have to be elected for that by your constituents. But if you're a huge PvPer, you're going to go to a military node, and to be the mayor there, you have to be the last man standing in an all-out brawl in the arena. You know what I mean? So as a new player, if you're good enough, kick everyone's ass, and then you're last man standing, you're going to be the mayor of that military node. Like, you don't need to know anybody.
Tyrant.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there are going to be a lot of different ways for brand new players that don't have any established community to go into Ashes and actually make a name for themselves, especially for people who are economists, people that actually love professions, love gathering or hunting or whatever they want to do to make money. I mean, with the stock market being there, the fact that there's going to be like actual, and this is something I've heard people say that ESO has, where there's going to be actual vendors, like that if you have, let's say, a leatherworking profession, you can set up a leatherworking shop. Like, you yourself can set up an actual shop. It's not going to be an NPC shop. It'll be your shop. And people will go into your shop and buy your craftables from you. Like, that to me is awesome, because I really hate the fact that everything is always NPC based, that everything is just buying something off of already pre-generated, computer. But now you're having real life interaction with other players and bartering and trading and doing all that stuff. So I think there is going to be a lot that Ashes is going to do for new players that a lot of games traditionally don't have those tools. I mean, they do. I mean, look at New World's economy when that opened up, and how the shit show that was. It just was terrible. But again, I feel like Steven being a very big profession person, and that the fact that he hired an actual economist to like figure out how they want to structure their own economy in the game, I think they're doing their research to try to make sure they're not going to have a New World debacle, but also to make sure that the players are going to have a legit system waiting for them on day one. So
you play D&D?
I used to. Actually,
I made a video.
Oh, you did?
This is gonna be the closest thing to a D&D game you play in a game. Like, you could play Neverwinter and all that, but they don't give you that true D&D feel. I feel like Ashes will be the closest thing to a living D&D. Like, that tree falls down for the event system, and you're like, ignore that tree. Then a bunch of spiders come out of that tree because you ignored it.
Right.
Like, consequences are a real thing with that event system. And with shops that you just talked about, I feel like this is the closest thing you'll get to an actual D&D campaign in a virtual world.
No,
and
for sure.
That's one of the big hooks.
So, out of all the MMOs you've played, I mean, because you're playing Final Fantasy right now. Oh, excuse me. Are you enjoying your time in Final Fantasy, or is something still left wanting for you?
No, there's nothing wanting from me.
Okay.
I'm going to be so brokenhearted if Ashes has to compete with the new Final Fantasy expansion. My first love will always be Final Fantasy.
Right. I believe it will. Like, I mean, because it just depends, right? So if Alpha 2 comes out first quarter next year, we're in Alpha 2 for a year, we're in beta for a couple of months, that will be what, 2024 summer, if not Q3, and at that time you'll be, I think, probably halfway into the new Final Fantasy expansion by that time, possibly.
And Riot will be having wheels going by then too, so that'd be an interesting world for the MMO.
Maybe. People have been saying at the end of the year that Riot's going to make some announcement, and they very well could be. And I've been wrong before. Hell, I was the person in January saying that Alpha 2 was going to be this July. Clearly wrong on that one. So I'm not opposed to being wrong. But in my opinion, I think they still have a lot left to do when it comes to their MMO. And hey, if it's ready by 2024, more power to them, and I definitely will try it and play it and see what that game's all about. But I just don't think it is. I think they might give hopefully more updates potentially next year, but I don't think it's going to be anything as an official announcement from Riot um saying anything. Um
Eh,
but that's just, you know, my opinion. But
Speculation.
yeah, I mean it's
My
gonna
bit. My
so
channel's built off speculate. I'm sorry.
no. I was just gonna ask, like, so even if Ashes comes out, and let's just say that Final Fantasy was gonna release a new expansion, you would still be playing Final Fantasy more so than Ashes?
Yes.
How dare you?
Yes.
No, hey, believe me, like I love Final Fantasy, and I bought Endwalker, but the same way I played Shadowbringers was when the final patch of Shadowbringers came out. That's when I started playing Shadowbringers, and I played the whole thing within a week. And just
Yeah.
being able to play all of the patches like all at once with like no barrier or no stoppage at all was just so awesome, like for me as a player. Because I don't really care to do like the end game activities in Final Fantasy. Like I don't really care for the rating. I just want to play Final Fantasy for the story. So I am
Right.
more of a story person when it comes to that.
And I think Ashes should somehow find to make your character relevant the way Final Fantasy does, instead of just being a husk. Like I played WoW for a little bit for the YouTube channel, and it's just Jaina's story, and you're just kind of there.
Right.
And I hope Ashes makes you the main character and not errand boy for the NPCs.
It's always so weird, right? How certain MMOs phrase their story. Sometimes there's just like a huge story happening, and you're just like that hero, or not even that hero, but that adventurer that's up for the task of doing
Yeah,
certain things in the world. Sometimes, like, you know, in Star Wars The Old Republic, your character is front and center. Like you are the story, and everything is all happening around you because of you. Um, I don't know where they're gonna go when it comes to the Ashes of Creation story. I'm very interested, and I think it's going to be very similar. If I had to take a just a wild guess, I think it's going to be very similar to classic WoW, where there is going to be an overarching story that is happening that is not going to involve you at all. It's just happening because it's happening. You know, kind of like a war is happening in the world and you're just a citizen, right? Like you didn't cause the war. It's just a war is going on between two countries. Like I think it's going to be kind of adjacent to that. But I
what
think
MMOs inspired him? He's inspired by old school Arcaged, or
so.
was he a
This
WoW guy?
No, so he's basing a lot of the principles and practices from Lineage 2 and Arcage, because those were
Oh,
the two games that he like played like religiously. You know, those were his WoW games. You know, those were the games that really, you know, tailored him as an MMO player. Now, sadly, I did not play Arcage, nor did I play Lineage 2.
yeah, I didn't play either of those two.
Yeah, it wasn't something that I did at all. Um, but with everything that they've been showing, and I know combat has been this huge topic, and I know we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Um, I don't know why people are poo-pooing on the hybrid system. They want Steven or Intrepid just to pick one, like pick action or pick tab, and just get rid of the other one. Well, what if they can do
Hybrid like
both?
Guild Wars?
Well, yeah, like I mean,
Yeah,
Guild Wars does both. Now, here's the thing: people that I've talked to that have played Guild Wars for many years has really never seen someone in Guild Wars actually use the crosshair system. The hybrid system that Guild Wars has as a melee player is when you do like a sword swing, right? From because they don't really have basic attacks, it's just your 1, 2, or 3 or 4 ability. If
yeah,
there's multiple mobs there, it's going to hit everything. Like even if it's
right.
like just a regular sword slash.
And I
Um,
like that.
right. And so do I. Usually, and this is how I say it, right? I would love if for melee they went very much in the action direction. I would still like the choice as a range player or as a healer to have tab, because I don't know if you've ever played a healer in a action-based game, but it traditionally sucks. It's really bad.
Yeah, I avoid that.
Yeah. And again, most people don't understand that, but it really does. And I'm not saying there's some games that don't do it okay or do it well, but traditionally, playing an action, MMORPG as a healer is not a good time. You look at New World and you look how that system is, it's a shit show. And all I'm saying is to have unit frames to be able to target and to do things is kind of necessary, especially if we're going to have big world boss raids and dungeons and, all that kind of stuff. So I am really advocating for Steven and Intrepid to keep the hybrid system. Like, make it a very engaging action-based system for melee players. Make it a great hybrid system for even range players to do, because honestly, the crosshair system is something that I think they should get rid of. But just hear me out for a second. As a ranger or a mage, I think there should be abilities that would require you to position the projectile or the reticle yourself. I just don't believe every attack should be that way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
It needs to have a variation, and this goes with healers too. You need a very good variation of abilities, whether it's just you push this one button, it hits 5 mobs. You push this one button, you have to target the projectile, and then you have to hit it again to explode it. You have to, and then there's another ability where you have to put down a projectile that's like a healing totem. There's another projectile that you would have to do that, just hits one single target. You know what I mean? Like, you need to have a good variation for, range players to do. I just think, especially with 500 versus 500 or even 250 versus 250 in siege battles, if you had to actually aim every ability, the lag alone could cause so much frustration. Because I come again from World of Warcraft, where even just having 40 players on a screen, like, you're just lagging everywhere. So now imagine to position your attacks. Like, that's going to be very, very, very frustrating. So, like, people don't understand that. They just see it on paper and they think this is terrible. But again, in practice, I think you're going to be wanting a more, tab system when it comes to big sprawling things. Not saying that you can't have abilities that are positional or that you do have to aim. I'm not saying you can still have those in a tab system. But I think, again, Ashes needs more variation when it comes to their ability set that they do, let's say, in other games. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. You know what else Ashes needs?
What?
Awesome raids that require communications. A Final Fantasy raid, you could just go in blindfolded and come out 30 minutes later and be fine.
Right.
And then I actually haven't done a World of Warcraft raid, but Destiny, if you play Destiny, those raids are just the perfect balance of fun and difficult and challenging. And I hope that's what the raids are like, is where you need communication and you just can't blindfold through, but you don't get steamrolled by the NPCs.
I would say that a lot of the stuff that Steven always talks about with instance content, because, in Final Fantasy, a lot of the things are instance based, right? They're not out in the open world.
Right.
Excuse me. He says that a lot of those things are going to be more story driven, right? Because they're going to instance you off to tell, a grand narrative or just a part of that narrative to really speak as to why you're there, what you're doing, etc. And Final Fantasy does this too. A lot of their dungeons are used narratively. So this isn't like a new thing or anything like that. But a lot of, and I think raiding in Final Fantasy is very different than raiding in World of Warcraft. Raiding in World of Warcraft, you have like a 10 boss raid. Well, in Final Fantasy, you have a boss. Like, you go inside the raid.
Yeah.
You pop in, the boss is right in front of you. There's no trash. There's no nothing. Now, I'm not saying you do have alliance raids in Final Fantasy, and those are different, right? Those are more traditional, let's say, to the World of Warcraft community. that people are accustomed to, where there are multiple bosses. But those traditionally aren't the mega bosses. Those aren't the really ones that you farm over and over for your weapon tokens or your armor tokens. They're more singular bosses. I believe that Ashes of Creation is going to go more the Final Fantasy route, and they're not going to have like raid tiers of like 8 or 10 bosses. They're going to have a boss, like similar to Final Fantasy, and I'm fine with that personally.
I am too. Yeah.
Because here's another hot take. I don't think people in Ashes of Creation, because in World of Warcraft, the raiding community is a pretty big community.
It's like esports, almost.
Yeah. I don't think Ashes of Creation is going to be known for raiding. Ashes of Creation is going to be known for castle sieges. That's what Ashes of Creation is going to be known for. When people
big
see
Lord of the Rings moments.
Oh, dude. For sure, because again, what other MMO, like, and this is something they were doing in the Alpha 1, like during the Castle Siege, I think it was 130 versus 130. And the lag, from what people told me, because I've talked to some of the testers, said that the lag was like good. Like it wasn't like terrible or anything. Like it was actually very good. And you were able to get all your abilities off, and there was hardly any rubber banding. Like, it was a good fight to be in. It was a lot of fun because you saw so many particle effects. You saw like the ballistas, the freaking just all the abilities going off. I mean, it was a time. So if Ashes of Creation can pull off successfully 250 versus 250, what other MMO can do that? No one. Literally no other MMO can do that.
Insane.
It's going to be insane. And I think when people actually see that for the first time, people are going to be like, fuck raiding, let's do this all day. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be way more fun. So and again, I'm not saying that Ashes is not going to have raids. They are going to have raids. I just don't think they're going to be known like, oh, if you're going to play, if you want to raid, you got to go in Ashes of Creation. No, that's not what it is. You know what I mean? It's just, and again, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be known for raids. Now, and you're talking to someone who was playing World of Warcraft as a raider for almost 12 years. I raided every patch, every raid tier. I was there. So I am all about raiding. I am. But at the same time, I'm going to be 36 years old. I have a family. I have a kid. I am not 17 anymore, or I'm not 21 anymore.
Yeah.
So, I again, even if it did have 8 or 10 boss raids in Ashes, I mean, I'll be fine for that. I'll be good for that. But, I don't need them in Ashes of Creation. And I want Ashes of Creation to do what Steven and Intrepid feel is the best thing for them to do for the game. And if that's castle sieges and guild wars and dude, even the naval system with the freaking Kraken boss, that big old like sea world boss that they showed off. Could you imagine seeing like 100 boats just shooting out into this freaking Kraken? Like with Unreal Engine 5 water graphics and just the fidelity and the beautifulness of all, dude, it's going to mind blow people. It's going to be insane.
Hope there's some ancient water god that's bigger than the Kraken too.
Oh,
like Cthulhu. Not Cthulhu himself, but
yeah, no. And believe it, Steven is such a geek when it comes to these things, which is why I'm so hyped about it, because I know that he has things that he is so giddy about that he doesn't want to show us because he wants it to be a surprise. And I think the team holds him back purposefully too, because, he is a kid in a candy shop. I mean, he's literally able to make his dream come true, which a lot of people don't have that luxury of doing. And, I think it's awesome. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't think people really understand the craziness that Ashes of Creation can be for people. Like, because there's so many different things that Ashes of Creation can be known for people. Because of the large castle sieges, you could potentially have on a server the biggest march by role players ever created. Like all of these people, all in the same gear, the same banner, the same everything. Like reenacting the Lord of the Rings war or something like that in some vista, in Ashes of Creation or in the Riverlands. Like They could totally do that. And especially right now in a lot of servers, like we're so limited. Like hell, even in New World, you can only have like 2,000 people on a single server. You're going to have over
Right.
15,000 people in Ashes of Creation on a single server. So if
Yeah.
it could hold a 500 versus or a 250 versus 250 battle, I mean, dude, just imagine just the other systems that people don't even really know or are asleep at the wheel on some of these systems. Like I think the caravan system, I think that system is going to be really cool. I think people
I do too, actually.
underestimate the caravan system, and they also underestimate the naval system. You know what I mean?
Are you
So,
gonna be an escort for the caravan, or are you gonna be a raider and raiding them?
so for my guild, I am going to be a protector. I want to be known on my server as the good guy. I want to be known as when you see me, like I am the person that's like, hey, I need help. You know, someone's bothering me. Can you protect me? My answer will always be sure. I'll help you. Because
Because
that's the other
I
thing that I love about this game is that kind of agency. But go ahead.
I have it all planned out. My character's gonna be like a sexy ass redhead barbarian chick, and I'm gonna be attacking. So you might be protecting your guild from my guys.
Well, and that's the other thing too, right? Is the fact that you're going to be in these like, you know, you could potentially be in a bandit guild where all they do is just raid caravans all day. They just go up and down to see who's doing caravans at what time, and having spies in other guilds to see, hey, there's the shipment moving at this time and there's only going to be 6 people protecting it, so we got to get a group of 15 or a group of, you know, whatever to go and make sure that we get it over, you know? Like you're going to have
now
that.
you're never Now you're never gonna trust anyone from my guild. You're like, are you from Artifacts? Yeah. Get out of here. I already know what you're doing.
But that's the thing though, is that you're going to have server reputations. Like in World of Warcraft back in the day, if you were a douchebag and you like ninja looted, or you were just, you know, you would be in a group in a dungeon and you just said like, fuck you guys, I'm leaving like halfway through, you were on blacklists. Guilds, like all the major guilds had a blacklist, and then they would share it with other guild leaders and be like, hey, I just want to share that there was this guy earlier today that G quit our guild and he did all these horrible things. I put him on the blacklist. I just want to let y'all be aware of that. And as soon as that guy tried to go somewhere else, he was blacklisted. No one wanted to invite him into the guild. And I think that's very, very good to have.
Yeah.
Self-policing is so good, and it worked wonders back in the day. Now, because of merger or server merges and the whole like you belong to 6 or 8 different servers and everything kind of meshes into one, it just, you don't even really seem like a server identity anymore. There is no self-policing. People can just be douchebags all day and there is no reprimand for it. Now you don't even need to be in a guild. There's absolutely no reason most of the time to be in a guild in a game, because they have like
Right.
looking for group finder or like all these other things that, you know, you just queue for it and it's not a big thing or an issue. Um, and the whole fact that, you know, Steven wants people to communicate and to start up their own groups themselves and not have this auto queuer system that's just going to make a raid, you know, out of these randos. You know what I mean? Like you yourself can
Right.
pick and choose, you know, your people, and it'll still be a group of randos, but it's a group that you can control. And that is the
Yeah.
major thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of things to be, in my opinion, very, very excited about for Ashes of
Right.
Creation. Now I'm just curious, you said a barbarian. Did you want to be like a fighter or did you want to be like a tank? Like what kind of class did you want to be?
Uh
Have you thought
I
about
don't
that?
know. I I think I'm gonna make her like the unstoppable force.
Okay.
Like
So you could
battle
be,
tank.
yeah, I was gonna say like some of the tanks specializations seem pretty freaking interesting. Because I'm gonna be a Renkai. I'm gonna be an orc. I love the way the orcs look in this game. I think they're gonna, you know, from what Steven says, is that the Renkais are gonna have a lot of options when it comes to their tusks, their face. Because like the orc they did show looked like a version of Mr. Rogers. He looked like a really nice orc. I want to
Yeah.
look like a freaking mean. I want to look like Garrosh Hellscream. I want to look
Right.
threatening as hell, but I am a good guy. Like I'm just gonna look intimidating, but I'm actually a teddy bear. You know what I mean? But that's the
Do you
fantasy that I
think
want to have.
this game should have over the top shoulder pads? Because I really want over the top shoulder pads.
Dude, who does not want over the top shoulder pads? I mean, for me, I think I'm just conditioned in World of Warcraft because it's just what I was used to. You know what I mean? I was very much used to very exaggerated gear. But hearing Steven, he's going the route of more realism. And
Yeah.
I'm fine with that because honestly, like I was scared when I heard that, but after seeing the art team and seeing some of these sets, holy shit. Like these sets are breathtaking. Some of them are so good. Like I honestly don't mind because to me, as long as the sets look good, I honestly don't care. Now, what I
Right.
would want is some really amazing weapons. Now, shoulder
Yes.
pads I can live without being, you know, super exaggerated, but I need some very awesome, unique weapon types that are like I
Right.
want a two-handed axe that looks like a freaking two-handed axe. Like I want to look like as an orc, I want to look mean, I want to look threatening, I want it to look big and
I want those
spiky
big
and
over the
stuff like
top
that.
anime shards.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, that's to me is the priority numero uno for me
Yeah.
is the weapon skins and the weapon types because I what's funny enough is that we haven't seen much in weapons. I don't know if people
Yeah.
really saw or like kind of put that together in their heads is like we've just been seeing nothing but outfits. We have hardly seen any weapons, whether it's staves, two-handed axes, two-handed swords, two-handed maces, one-handed swords. Like we've seen a couple of like some sword and
Shields.
shield combos and stuff like that. Yeah. But not to the extent of like the outfits. We've seen way more outfits than we have weapon types and just different weapon skins. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious as to how weapons are going to look. And even the wands, right? Like for mages, like I want different kinds of wands. Like, like I'm just curious to see what their art direction is going to be for weapons. But I am excited because I think if it's anything like their outfits, I don't have to be nervous about it because they're probably going to knock it out of the park.
Wands are so hard. It's like, how do I make a stick interesting?
Well,
But
that's very true. The same thing with daggers, but man, World of Warcraft
yeah.
has some very interesting daggers. And they do have some interesting ones too. I mean, they have ones with like a skeleton holding an orb at the end and just all these different kinds of wands. I mean, they can be interesting. Um
World of Warcraft has like the coolest armors. I'm not even a Warcraft guy, but they have like the coolest glowy bits.
they can.
As a I just I wish
They
Final Fantasy had that over the top stuff too.
dude, honestly, some of the Final Fantasy armor in my opinion looks really freaking good, man. There's
Eden's Gate,
yeah, I
my
mean,
favorite armor set.
yeah, so the armor set that I have on my ninja is the Gintama. It was the limited set that came out, the one that looks like Power Rangers. Like
Oh,
there was
ah,
like there was the silver one, the gold one, the black one, the red one, and all the different colors. I have the
yeah.
silver one on my ninja, and it looks so good. I love it. I've never taken it off ever since I got that armor set. I literally have never taken it off. So, um, so to kind of wrap up our conversation, I'm trying to see what I want to ask you because I usually ask the same question, but I feel like for everything we've talked about, how are you liking covering ashes?
I enjoy it. I actually do. Um, I'm kind of afraid to critique it because every time I critique it, I usually get like a bad rap in the comments. But that's sometimes I deserve it because some of my takes are dumb. But then sometimes I'm like, I wonder if the Ashes community will allow criticism or if they're going the Final Fantasy route.
Criticism, as long as your heart is in the right place and you're not just talking crap to talk crap.
Yeah,
If it's your legit criticism, say it. Don't don't care. You should not care about who's going to say what in the comic section, because guess what? It's the internet.
it's
You're
the internet. Yeah.
whatever take you have in today's day and age, someone will have the opposite negative reaction to it. You should
Right.
never be afraid to say criticism. And I think, again, Steven, I had the privilege of him watching one of my videos recently, and he commented on it.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, I literally was in shock. I and it wasn't like he said something prophetic or just something like, "Oh, your channel's so amazing, it's so great, people should subscribe to you this instant." I wish he said that, but no, he didn't. He basically just left a heart emoji. You know what I mean? But my whole
Yeah.
thing is that Steven is very passionate for this project.
Right.
And believe me, he is looking at everybody. I would not doubt that he probably watched a video of yours already, because that boy is passionate and he is looking for every kind of criticism, every kind of, walk of life. And this is why I do my 1v1s, because everybody has different expectations when it comes to the MMO genre. So you should never be afraid to say what's bothering you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, you can probably have someone go into the comic section and say, "Well, I disagree with you because of this." And you might read that and be like, "Wow, I actually agree with him. Like, maybe I
Right.
should think about it a little bit more, about think about it more intently, or like relook at my argument again." You know what I mean? That could happen. Or he could just say something that just didn't resonate with you. Doesn't mean you can just agree to disagree. You can still have your opinion. And again, I think having different disagreements in different walks of life, especially in a project like this, is needed. I think it's needed
I do
now more
too.
than ever, because if we can just agree on everything, I'm not saying this game won't come out great, but at the same time, like, we do need to have discussions, and there is going to be agreements and disagreements. So you should never feel bad for falling in a disagreement with people, as long as you're coming at it with love. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
if you don't like it, hey, that's your opinion. Doesn't mean that someone else can't have another opinion about it. But at the end of the day, like, it's the internet. People are going to have opinions.
It's the internet. Yeah.
So, is there anything else
So,
you want to say before we cast off into the sunset?
um, not really. I'm doing grind week this week on my channel. So I have like videos up every day this week.
Oh
I
wow,
imagine one just went up live 5 minutes ago. I spent all weekend making videos, so trying to get to
dang.
150 subscribers. So I'll shout that out.
All right. Well, I will shout that out, and I will tell my subs and all of my people. I have a pretty good. I wouldn't say like a the people that comment on my videos, God bless them, man. Like, they've been with me since the beginning. Like, I usually see the same people comment on every one of my videos, and I appreciate every single one of them. So I will
Yeah.
say, if you want a different take on Ashes, go to Human Artifacts YouTube channel. I will link it down at the bottom of the description below. You also have a Twitter as well, or no?
Uh, yeah, but I don't know it off the top of my head, and it's mostly to complain about wrestling, so it's not really relevant.
Okay.
But it's a artifact something. I don't know.
Well, did you want me to put that in the description below too, or did you want people just to follow you on YouTube?
Just follow me on YouTube. My Twitter's just for wrestling. It's
Got
not relevant at all.
it. All right. Well, maybe when you come big enough, you'll have a separate YouTube or a separate Twitter account for your YouTube channel, because you'll be at like 100,000 subs. All right. I'm
Yeah.
calling that out. Calling that out for you.
Thanks.
All right, man. Well, dude, it was a pleasure talking with you. I'm so glad you reached out to me. Um, and again, like, if you have any questions regarding like Ashes of Creation, or you just want to have a talk or whatever, my line is always open.
Yeah. They it I I appreciate it. actually. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I'm like, maybe I'll hit him up on Twitter and see what happens. I wasn't expecting anything from it, but thank you
Hey,
for
no
having
problem,
me.
man.
It was fun.
Hey, I had a blast too. Again, I'm always, like I said, and I say this in every one of my 1v1s, is I am always down to have a conversation with somebody. It does not matter. You can be a YouTube creator. You can be just an Ashes fanboy like I am. It does not matter. Just whisper me on Discord, whisper me on Twitter, comment, at the bottom of this video and say, hey, I want to be on a 1v1 channel. I will reach out to you. All right. But again, human, it was great talking. We had a great chat. And like I said, hopefully when Alpha 2 comes out, I'll bring you back on and we'll talk to see how you're enjoying Alpha 2. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Sounds good to me
Maybe
too.
I'll raid your caravan in Alpha too. But
You
don't
can
tell
try.
anyone.
You can try. You're going to die.
Probably. Thank you.
All right, guys.
It was a lot of fun.
Hey, my name is Vlhadus. This is Human Artifact. You're on the 1v1 podcast. We will see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys.